A dense fog rolled into Crystal Cove like a shroud, winding through its cobblestone streets with an eerie grace. It moved as if alive, its thick, clammy presence muffling sound and dimming the once bright hues of the town's charming facades. The glow of the street lamps barely penetrated the oppressive gray, their light dissolving into the mist like ink in water. The air felt heavy, almost suffocating, as if laden with a sinister purpose. The townsfolk, though accustomed to coastal weather, couldn't ignore the unnatural quality of this fog, which seemed to bring an ominous stillness with it. For 7 consecutive nights, the fog grew denser, its arrival heralded by an unsettling silence that seemed to engulf Crystal Cove. In the dim light of dawn, a figure began to appear within the mist. At first, it was no more than a fleeting shadow, but as the days passed, it became more defined. It was a humanoid silhouette surrounded by curling tendrils of frost that shimmered faintly in the pale light. Its eyes, glowing with an otherworldly intensity, scanned the streets as though searching for something. Wherever the figure moved, frost trailed in its wake, freezing puddles solid and leaving intricate crystalline designs on windows and leaves. Fearful whispers spread through the town, and those who caught sight of the apparition quickly turned away, hearts pounding. Speculation ran wild as the townspeople sought to make sense of the apparition. Some claimed it was the spirit of a vengeful sailor cursed to roam the earth in search of his stolen treasure. Others insisted it was tied to an ancient legend of the sea, a cautionary tale about greed and betrayal. The more imaginative suggested it was a harbinger of doom, while skeptics dismissed it as an elaborate hoax. Despite the varied theories, one fact was undeniable. The spectral figure's presence was very real. Shops closed early, children were kept indoors, and an air of unease settled over the community. Even the mayor, known for his calm demeanor, appeared visibly shaken when addressing the town during an emergency meeting, his words of reassurance hollow. Amid the growing panic, Velma remained resolute in her search for a logical explanation. Her sharp intellect and unyielding curiosity drove her to the town's library, where she pored over dusty books, yellowed maps, and brittle documents in search of answers. It was in the deepest corner of the archives that she stumbled upon a worn, leather-bound journal. Its cover, cracked and weathered by time, bore no title, but its contents held a wealth of information. The journal recounted the legend of the Frosted Mariner, a pirate ship that had vanished centuries ago during a brutal ice storm near Crystal Cove. The tale spoke of ghostly apparitions, chilling winds that froze ships in their tracks, and accursed treasure said to doom anyone who sought it. Velma's pulse quickened as she read the vivid descriptions, which bore a striking resemblance to the events unfolding in Crystal Cove. The journal detailed icy trails, spectral figures, and the unsettling whispers that accompanied the fog. It also contained cryptic references to a location linked to the ship's last sighting. "This has to be connected," Velma murmured, her eyes narrowing as she studied the brittle pages. Armed with this newfound knowledge, she knew she had to share her findings with the rest of the gang. Gathering her notes and the journal, she headed to their meeting spot, determined to solve the mystery before fear consumed the town entirely. While Velma investigated the town's history, Daphne found herself captivated by the haunting beauty of the frost patterns left by the spectral figure. The intricate design seemed almost too deliberate to be random, resembling delicate snowflakes frozen in motion. The factory exuded an eerie atmosphere, its silence broken only by the occasional creak of metal in the wind. As Daphne explored the factory grounds, she couldn't shake the feeling that the place held secrets. The frost patterns on the broken windows matched those she had seen in the streets, and similarities were too striking to dismiss. She snapped photographs of the designs, comparing them to her earlier observations. Her instincts told her she was onto something significant. Returning to the van, she shared her findings with Fred, Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby. Fred listened intently, his mind already working to devise a plan. The factory might be the key to understanding what's happening, he concluded, and the gang agreed to investigate further. As twilight descended, the gang approached the abandoned factory, its shadow looming large against a foggy horizon. The building's decaying facade seemed to stare back at them, its broken windows like empty eyes. Shaggy and Scooby hung back, their reluctance evident in their wide eyes and trembling hands. "Why do we always end up in creepy places like this?" Shaggy muttered, clutching a sandwich as if it could shield him from the factory's foreboding aura. Scooby whimpered in agreement, his tail tucked firmly between his legs. Stepping inside, the gang found themselves in a labyrinth of rusted machinery and peeling walls. Cobwebs hung thick in the corners, and the air smelled of mildew and decay. Their flashlights cast long shadows that danced across the crumbling interior. As they ventured deeper, Velma's keen eye caught sight of something unusual. Frost clinging to the machinery, forming patterns identical to those Daphne had photographed. "This isn't natural," Velma observed. "Someone is deliberately creating these designs." Her words sent a chill through the group, but they pressed on. Their exploration led them to a hidden door, partially obscured behind a stack of crates. Fred pushed it open with some effort, revealing a narrow corridor shrouded in darkness. As the door creaked, an icy draft swept through, carrying with it a faint, mournful whisper. "Maybe this is a bad idea," Shaggy suggested, taking a step back. Before anyone could respond, the spectral figure appeared, its glowing eyes blazing in the dim light. The gang froze, their breath visible in the sudden chill. Chows erupted as the gang scattered in all directions, their hurried footsteps echoing through the factory. The phantom glided after them, its frosty aura freezing everything in its path. Shaggy and Scooby dove into a side room, slamming the door behind them and piling furniture against it. "This is why we should stick to snacks, Scoob," Shaggy panted. Meanwhile, Fred, Daphne, and Velma regrouped near the entrance, their minds racing as they tried to make sense of the unfolding events. Back at the van, Velma carefully examined a shard of frosted glass Daphne had retrieved during their escape. Embedded within the frost were tiny particles of sea salt, further cementing the connection to the legend of the Frosted Mariner. "This confirms the maritime link," Velma said, her tone resolute. "The docks must hold the final piece of the puzzle." The gang, though apprehensive, agreed to investigate the waterfront, knowing it might be their best chance to uncover the truth. At the docks, the gang discovered a hidden network of tunnels beneath the weathered boardwalk. The passages, damp and dimly lit, connected the marina to the glass factory, revealing an intricate smuggling operation. Crates marked with the Frosted Mariner's emblem were stacked along the walls, their contents obscured by heavy tarps. Velma unearthed a ledger detailing the movement of stolen goods, confirming that the spectral figure was a carefully crafted ruse to mask criminal activities. Before they could delve deeper, the phantom appeared once more, its glowing eyes cutting through the gloom. Fred quickly devised a plan, using the contents of the smuggler's crates to set a trap. Daphne distracted the phantom with a flare, while Velma manipulated a nearby freezer unit to generate a dense fog. The gang worked in unison, their efforts culminating in the successful capture of the figure using a reinforced net. As they approached cautiously, Fred pulled off the mask, revealing Gerald, the reclusive assistant to the factory's enigmatic owner. Gerald's confession exposed his elaborate scheme. He had used the legend of the Frosted Mariner to terrorize the town and disguise his smuggling operation. His specially designed cooling suit and the carefully orchestrated frost patterns had lent credibility to the myth. With the stolen artifacts recovered and Gerald in custody, the fog began to lift, restoring Crystal Cove's familiar charm. As the townspeople celebrated the gang's bravery, Velma reflected on the enduring power of legends and the truths they often concealed. Her mind wandered to what other mysteries lay hidden, waiting to be uncovered by those willing to look beyond the surface. When Evermore Park reopened after years of neglect, its once magical attractions exuded an unsettling presence. Flickering lights cast eerie shadows, and a thin mist slithered across the ground, like a ghostly tide, shrouding the park in a sinister ambience. The locals avoided the area entirely, haunted by rumors of a lurking menace, the Shadow Clown. Mystery Inc., led by Fred, decided to investigate the chilling tales. Daphne, graceful and composed, stayed close to Fred as they entered the enigmatic grounds. Scooby and Shaggy hesitated, their usual reluctance amplified by the eerie setting, but the irresistible aroma of cotton candy lured them inside. Meanwhile, Velma's sharp mind turned to analyzing the suspicious tickets they had purchased, which featured cryptic engravings that hinted at deeper mysteries. Fred and Daphne gravitated toward the carousel, an attraction that creaked and groaned as it spun in, an irregular, disjointed rhythm. The mechanical whine of its movements echoed like distant wails through the desolate park. As they examined the surroundings, Velma's meticulous study of the ticket engravings uncovered coded instructions pointing to the infamous House of Mirrors. Scooby and Shaggy, drawn to a seemingly abandoned popcorn cart, were momentarily distracted from their unease. However, their relief quickly turned to terror when a ghostly reflection appeared in a nearby mirror, prompting them to scream and flee. Stumbling into the House of Mirrors, Scooby and Shaggy found themselves in a chamber of distorted reflections. One mirror depicted a grotesque figure with an unnervingly wide grin and glowing eyes, the sight of which left them paralyzed with fear. Elsewhere, Fred discovered an old storeroom filled with rusted gears and scattered documents, while Daphne's search yielded a forgotten notebook belonging to a former park employee. Velma, armed with her tablet, decrypted the remaining codes from the tickets, realizing they contained a sequence of clues leading the group toward the park's climax. The group regrouped at the Ferris wheel, which loomed against the foggy skyline. Its ponderous rotations seemed propelled by some invisible force. Daphne noticed a functioning security camera, intermittently capturing unsettling footage, its feeds hinting at movements within the shadows. Velma's examination of the notebook revealed details about a tragic accident that had marred the park's history decades ago. Meanwhile, Scooby and Shaggy, still pursued by the mysterious Shadow Clown, stumbled upon a concealed passage beneath the Ferris wheel's rusting structure. In the hidden corridor, the duo discovered a secret hideout littered with clown costumes and aged newspaper clippings. The headlines chronicled the disgraced dismissal of a former employee, connecting him to a long-forgotten scandal. As the pieces began to fall into place, Fred called the group together to explore the park's central hall. Daphne, ever resourceful, located a functioning projector amidst the debris and activated it, revealing an unsettling montage of footage outlining a carefully orchestrated plan for vengeance. Velma's analysis of the codes confirmed the events were part of a deliberate scheme to terrify and manipulate parkgoers. The main hall erupted with flashing strobe lights, casting a chaotic glow over the dilapidated space. At the center of the commotion stood the silhouette of the Shadow Clown, menacing and enigmatic. Fred's courage shone as he stepped forward to confront the figure, but closer inspection revealed it to be a sophisticated hologram. Daphne uncovered a hidden control panel behind a false wall, while Velma followed the system's wires to a secret basement. Scooby and Shaggy, true to form, stumbled into the basement's entrance after falling into a pile of cushions that had concealed it. In the dimly lit basement, the gang discovered the mastermind behind the terror. Walter Grimm's, a former park employee embittered by his dismissal decades prior. Using advanced holographic technology and carefully planted scares, Walter had sought revenge by reviving the legend of the Shadow Clown to instill fear and chaos. Fred unmasked him, exposing his identity to the group. Daphne deactivated the control systems, while Velma pieced together the entire narrative for a conclusive explanation. The group's meticulous investigation revealed Walter's elaborate plot, which included using cutting-edge projection systems to create lifelike illusions and crafting an atmosphere of dread to drive people away from the park. With the evidence secured, the gang handed Walter over to the authorities. Scooby and Shaggy, initially shaken, relaxed upon realizing the Shadow Clown was merely human. Their relief was short-lived, however, as the memory of their harrowing adventure lingered. As the gang exited Evermore Park, the oppressive fog seemed to lift and the park's lights flickered out one by one, leaving the grounds in an eerie, sepulchral silence. Though the immediate danger had passed, Velma couldn't shake the feeling that the park's mysteries ran deeper than they'd uncovered. Casting one last glance over her shoulder, she pondered what other secrets might lie buried within the park's dark history. Back in the Mystery Machine, the group reflected on their experience. Fred reviewed the case notes, organizing their findings into a coherent report. Velma meticulously archived the digital evidence, ensuring it would be ready for law enforcement. Daphne, gazing out the window, remarked on the serene beauty of the night, a stark contrast to the chaos they had left behind. Scooby and Shaggy, oblivious to the serious mood, focused on devouring a towering sandwich. Their camaraderie, a comforting constant. Days after the case's conclusion, news broke that Evermore Park would close permanently. Fred remarked that it was the right decision to prevent further incidents, while Daphne expressed curiosity about the fate of the property. Velma, ever pragmatic, suggested they keep an eye out for similar mysteries. Scooby and Shaggy, true to form, expressed their hope that future cases would involve more food and fewer scares, prompting a round of laughter. As the team returned to their usual travels, they carried with them the lessons learned from Evermore Park. Each member's unique strengths had contributed to solving the mystery. Fred's leadership, Daphne's creativity, Velma's intellect, and Scooby and Shaggy's loyalty remained the cornerstone of their success. Together, they felt prepared to tackle any challenge that lay ahead. One quiet evening during a camping stop, Fred reflected aloud on their latest adventure, sharing how each case deepened their bond as a team. Daphne added that solving mysteries brought a sense of purpose and fulfillment. Velma proposed documenting their experiences in a book to preserve their legacy. Scooby and Shaggy, ever practical, suggested including recipes, prompting hearty laughter from the group. Just as they began to relax, a noise from the nearby woods shattered the peaceful atmosphere. The sound was faint but distinct, a rustling that set them all on edge. Fred immediately suggested investigating, while Velma grabbed her flashlight and Daphne readied her bag. Scooby and Shaggy attempted to hide, but their curiosity eventually got the better of them as they joined the group, cautiously advancing toward the sound. The source of the noise turned out to be nothing more than the wind rattling a rusty sign. A collective sigh of relief swept through the group. but they knew that their adventures were far from over. Fred confidently declared that as long as they worked together, no challenge was insurmountable. Daphne smiled, Velma agreed, and Scooby and Shaggy celebrated with a jubilant Scooby-Dooby-Doo. Another mystery was behind them, and their unbreakable bond carried them forward toward the unknown.